about the chase here, as I believe they're going to be using the passive speed from Sheer rather than the amp it up to try and force Boston Uprising to over-rotate.
That is a good first Maywall, and Sparkle almost got booped off the map, but Mag did manage to survive that. So surprisingly, having to use the shout, though, is not ideal, so Boston going to play passive for the next 11 seconds until that is back, but MCD finds the rough end of an icicle to the dome, and without that break, the rest of the dominoes in Boston will fall, and that's the first cap for Fuel, which is great to defend with a Mei.
The cleave damage as well from Sparkle is so good for mitigating the premise of AoE healing. It does 100 DPS.
They give room for Edison to get picks again. Sound barrier first from Boston. Fielder matches the rally. A lot of sustain from both sides, and MCD's the first to fall again. That's 2 consecutive fights that Fuel focus down the supports, and Mag just really has to own this front line and not just let Dallas Fuel squeeze by. But speaking of squeezing by, the DPS of Boston made an impact of their own, but not before the star of the show is in the sky, and it's Sparkle that ends the fight for Fuel. Overtime will start, and there's no one nearby for Boston to touch, but that was a pretty close Sanctum round 1. Have that inspire from Fielder, get them back up, and build up towards the rally. Now Fuel re-engage, but they're still trapped in this small room, and Sparkle walls himself off from his own team! That was not the plan! Feeding was not on the menu! But Fuel finally do lose the fight after just taking so long to get it going. And they had to go so far for that kill though, but it's still a 5-on-3. Rampage from Hanbin and see if they can salvage this fight. Fuel in a 3-on-5 have to face now the Sound Beer of Fate. It's a lot of resources, and Fuel just couldn't escape in time. So Boston will get the flip and force a round. Oh, here's Sparkle with the touch, guys. I got it. Slow poke emoji. Boston will still get round 3.
Boston Uprising, they have managed to find their tempo again. This is what excited us about the Boston Uprising in their first match.
To lose Fielder, although he hasn't really died as much as MCD, and you got Victoria low, so Dallas Fuel run in to finish off that kill, but Victoria got to safety, and Boston used this moment to punish Fuel on their approach while they're out of cover. Now it's even numbers on both sides, and no healers from the Fuel. We're left with Sparkle versus the world, and that'll be the end of that. Boston will cap first. As Fate drops the sound barrier during the Fuel push, and Edison is cut down, and Sparkle wants to do some more cutting with the blade, goes after the front line and the back line, and everyone in between. That's 2 fights in a row for the Boston Uprising.
Blade for blade, I think Faith might have been a touch too excited there when it came to using that sound barrier. Valentine does get a couple more percentage points here, Lemon, but now
dashes in, gets over the wall, doesn't get picked yet, but Fuel now overtime on their side. It's this final round. Sparkle has the blade, goes after MCD, who shield bashes away, uses the rally, but it's not enough to supplement the Boston Uprising in the final fight. It's Fuel, man, it got real close, but at the end, it's all Fuel all day as they take map number 1.
that last fight was masterfully crafted by the Dallas Fuel, knowing we've got the rally to work with. So we're just going to move on forward, knowing that Boston Uprising can't counter us. They have to disengage.
Window panes are great covers, so see how Fuel want to hold it. Hanbin is at the door. He got a knife pull onto Faith, but he learned his lesson from last time.
Dallas Fuel got a really good setup for this fight. All they need to do is get some pressure on the car, and the blade comes out. What a fight.
Why do you guys always start fighting when I'm done talking? You stare at each other so lovingly for so long. But Fuel, they drop off the high ground, beat down the DPS of Boston, and we're back with Fuel. Is there even gonna be a recontest from Boston? They're gonna have to touch soon. It's 1 meter away, and yeah, no, Boston dead in the water. So Fuel will have 5.5 for C.
Boston are postured for an early fight here, though. Victoria's already going to fall. At this point, they might as well be staggers on a late spawn.
MCD's just toast. Where'd he go? We found him. And Fuel are just hunting for their prey. Edison gets to take a well-earned break on the cart after stealing Sparkle's ace. We all forgive. Scary with these knives, and just anyone getting pulled. I think even just pulling the Junker Queen is good, especially with how low Mag is. And Boston shout in, and Sparkle gets dominated, just like Valentine. At least Sparkle can laugh it off as Boston laugh away this fight. And it's about damn time Boston start winning fights. Also lost it all on that one. Sparkle gets bubbled, and he's able to dash back to safety as Fuel just have to have Hanbin go to the cart, but Sparkle's the one with the touch. He's done for. Fuel will have the rally to work with, and Hanbin's at 100 charge. He says, no DPS, no problem. I am the DPS now, but he might have to think about touching. I don't even know who's keeping this overtime going. Nobody is. As Hanbin was spawn camping, he forgot about the most important thing. Managed to get out without losing anyone as Shio drops Sound Barrier, doesn't hit Edison, but the other 4 members of Fuel gonna see what they can make out of this fight. And already taking care of the DPS of Boston is massive. Before the barrier could come out, before the rally from MCD could happen at all. And that's what's important. It's the blade from Valentine. Face Barrier is still not getting popped despite his team getting popped. And Fuel invests 2 support ultimates and the overclock to win this. And Fuel, you have Boston has 8 seconds left. What are we waiting for to use ults?
We're waiting for Overwatch 3, Lemon. All the world's longest beat is not long enough to reach the cart. The pathing simply wasn't there. The boops were too strong. Point spawn holds. And we can see Sparkle already in the back getting repair packs. He's going to be a nuisance for Boston to deal with.
And what's important is that Valentine is paying no attention to Sparkle. There's different styles of Genji, whether you want to babysit the other Genji, go for a flank onto the supports, or deal with the tank. And Sparkle has already accessed the DPS and has killed 2 before Valentine did anything at all. 0 kills, in fact. So this has been a Sparkle div with a 4K in this fight. Way back to the high ground, especially to be in range of the healers. Sparkle has been found on Mega, and that's an easy execute for Valentine, committing the blade only for him, as Victoria's had the space on the high ground to get a headshot onto Edison. So Fuel just not able to punish kind of that split from Boston before they regrouped back up. Now there's 6 seconds remaining for the Fuel, and the Rampage at the ready. Fielder has been disrupted from his approach, and Fuel now have to touch the cart. Chio is there. Hanbin used the Rampage, but it didn't have much effect. Boston don't have MCD, but the barrier is enough to scare Fuel away. Still able to get the kills despite Mag missing. The rallies used from MCD, they think it's winnable. MCD bashes into Fielder, I believe, and both Brigidas are removed. We're left with a 3-on-4 as Mag just returns to the fight now, making it 4-on-4. Sparkle has received a shout and even has a disruptor shot to get him back to safety, but there's just not enough damage to go into Mag as he just bulldozes the front line with a 3K.
Mag re-emerges with a fresh body from spawn of a bleed.
Boston are in a weird position on Mega, just waiting to get disruptor shot. They're taking free poke from Dallas Fuel too. Would have been better to push from the right side and just go directly to Card, and Dallas Fuel are right above them, kind of just poking away. But now Fuel have exposed themselves, and that's a canceled Rampage. Victoria with the overclock. Also diffing Edison just statistically, and we'll get into that later. Valentine not fast enough to chase down Chio. Meters away for Boston to take the first map in the series. Edison has the touch. Chio is too far. No, Sparkle blinks in at the last second, but there's not enough reinforcements. The Boston Uprising have taken a map from the Dallas Fuel. Still the lead for Boston. Getting close to an overclock, but it's Valentine that pulls out the blade first. Chio ready for the sound barrier, and Sparkle's blading at the same time, but you know who doesn't have barrier? Fate. He's down 7%, and look how much of a difference that 7% makes. That's a Fuel fight win because of that. With the second, but they add on the rally of Fielder. Faith pops the sound barrier now that the blade from Sparkle isn't a problem anymore, but isn't really helping Boston get ahead. The answer doesn't seem like yes, as Hanbin rampages through Mag and Victoria, forcing them back and forcing an MCD rally to try and save this fight. I think it's 4-on-2 in favor of the Boston Uprising, and Hanbin and whoever that was left were split up anyway. Soundbear to re-engage. Victoria has to jump back, but still not enough space as Sparkle closes the gap with the Dragon Blade, killing 2, and Boston have to reset. There was some stalling, but Fuel should be getting up to 80 meters plus now. Perfect time! And now everyone from Boston is just body blocking for Valentine, who still manages to live with the 21 HP he ended up with. And Fuel are just out of sorts. They committed to too many different targets. Edison still got 2, and that should get Fuel a few more meters. It's 2-on-2 on the bot, but closer respawns for Boston means Fuel got a lead. Rally and a Chio soundbear to save Fielder before his death to keep the rally going, and Boston didn't have those same ults in time. Faith is dead. MCD2. Sparkle is shining for the Dallas Fuel when they needed him to the most. 109-0 as Dallas Fuel take the series 3-1.
15 final blows out of 25 elims for Sparkle. A huge performance from the Premier Genji.